Let's dive right into this explainer on something that honestly sounds like science fiction: radical life extension. For literally millennia, we've just accepted aging and death as the ultimate, inescapable facts of human biology. But what if we're on the cusp of rewriting the oldest rule in the book? Today, we're exploring whether human mortality is actually a fixed boundary or maybe, just maybe, it's simply an engineering problem waiting to be solved. Because think about it, for thousands of years, humanity has been totally obsessed with mortality. Ancient texts from the Book of Genesis to the Epic of Gilgamesh, they've all set this hard limit on our time. Even Psalm 90 historically capped human life at 70 or maybe 80 years if you're lucky. And our entire societal framework, all our stories, our philosophies, they've all been built around this finite existence. But today, cutting-edge science is forcing us to ask an incredibly radical question. What if aging is just a disease we haven't cured yet? Seriously, researchers across the globe are actively asking if the biological clock is something we can actually hit pause on, or even reverse. We're shifting away from viewing aging as this inevitable tragedy and starting to look at it as a treatable medical condition. Section 1, the quest for more time. To put things in perspective, just over a century ago, in 1900, the average American lived to be only 47 years old. Today, we're pushing nearly 80, and this incredible leap wasn't magic. Thanks to modern public health, antibiotics, better sanitation, we've largely stopped early childhood mortality and treatable infections in their tracks. But here's the catch. While average life expectancy has absolutely skyrocketed, the maximum human lifespan, it hasn't actually shifted all that much. Yeah, our current natural biological ceiling seems to be stuck right around 120 years. Take Jen Coleman, for example. She holds the record for the longest documented human lifespan in history. She passed away back in 1997 at 122 years old. Most experts agree our natural limit sits right around this mark. So, to push past it, we're going to need way more than just a good diet and basic medicine. We need a fundamental scientific intervention. Which brings us to Section 2, hacking the biological clock. Right now, scientists are actively trying to develop pills using compounds like resveratrol, which you can actually find in grape skins, and rapamycin, an immunosuppressant drug that basically trick the body into thinking it's starving. Why? Well, back in the 1930s, researchers found that near-starvation diets vastly extended the lifespans of rats. So today, the hope is that these mimetics can activate our cellular waste management systems. They specifically target the sirtuin genes, giving us all the amazing longevity benefits of starving without, actually having to skip dessert. But as we all know, biology is incredibly complex. A famous 27-year study at the Wisconsin Primate Research Center showed that rhesus monkeys eating 30% fewer calories lived longer and had less disease. Huge win, right? Well, a parallel study by the National Institute on Aging found no appreciable difference in longevity, though they did see some health benefits. It's a pretty stark reminder that what works perfectly in a petri dish, or even in a mouse, doesn't always translate perfectly to complex mammals like us. Beyond diets, researchers have actually multiplied the lifespans of roundworms up to 6 times over by mutating specific genes, which they playfully dubbed Methuselah genes. And even more recently, scientists at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine discovered a chemical in the brains of mice, specifically right in the hypothalamus, that might actually trigger the aging process throughout the entire body. When they suppressed it, the mice live longer with fewer illnesses. It's truly mind-blowing stuff. Moving on to Section 3. Radical tech and genetic engineering. A massive leading figure in this space is biogerontologist Aubrey de Grey. He basically views the human body like a vintage car. He argues that instead of treating old age when it happens, we just need to perform rigorous cellular-level maintenance using his sense approach. That's strategies for engineered, negligible senescence. This involves super precise biomedical strategies. We're talking stem cell therapy, tissue engineering, lengthening our protective telomeres, and using immunotherapy to clear out cellular waste. It's essentially an engineering solution to a biological breakdown. And the sheer scale of ambition here is just staggering. Researchers envision using CRISPR to physically edit out aging pathways straight from our DNA, or consider nanomedicine. Some futurists predict that by 2030, we might deploy microscopic nanobots right into our bloodstream to constantly repair our cells from the inside out. There's even something called the 2045 Initiative, which focuses on cyborg organ replacement, literally swapping out failing biological organs for durable mechanical ones. All of this radical tech paves the way for the concept of the singularity. Inventor and futurist Ray Kurzweil predicts that exponential technological growth will soon allow us to completely reverse engineer the human brain.
In his view, to truly conquer aging, we might ultimately just download human consciousness entirely. We'd leave our fragile biological wetware behind and merge seamlessly with machines to achieve actual immortality.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, the ethics of immortality.
Now, to really understand these complex societal ripples, we're drawing from some rigorous analysis compiled by the Pew Research Center. Because curing aging isn't just a scientific hurdle, right? It's a massive philosophical, theological, and demographic paradigm shift that touches literally every aspect of the human experience.
Think about it. For most of human history, life was brief and difficult, or as philosopher Thomas Hobbes famously put it, nasty, brutish, and short. Because of this, our entire social fabric is built around a finite timeline. Philosopher and theologian Stanley Hauerwas even argues that this finite nature of life is exactly what gives meaning to love and human commitment. Without the ticking clock of mortality, he suggests, the urgency and depth of human connections could just fade away.
Conversely, Aubrey de Grey argues we're trapped in what he calls a pro-aging trance. When death was totally inevitable, accepting it was a crucial coping mechanism. But if science can stop it, treating aging as a natural good actually becomes a massive barrier to progress. He argues that treating aging as a disease will ultimately lead to far less human suffering, basically making life extension a moral imperative. On the flip side, Leon Kass, former chairman of the U.S. President's Council on Bioethics, questions if a society focused entirely on life extension loses its drive for procreation, innovation, and higher purpose. He warns that extending our own youth indefinitely could be a deeply narcissistic pursuit, one that strips away the space and resources meant for future generations. And both sides fiercely debate the demographic realities here too. Critics are sounding the alarm on devastating global overpopulation if death rates suddenly plummet. But advocates counter that life extension could postpone menopause, allowing women to space out pregnancies, which would naturally drop the yearly population growth rate and stabilize things. Add to this the ethical warnings of transhumanist philosopher Nick Bostrom. He stresses that we absolutely must ensure these therapies don't just become a luxury for the privileged few, creating an immortal elite class while the poorest nations suffer. So how does faith intersect with all of this? It's a really wide spectrum. While Catholic leaders like former Pope Benedict XVI have warned of an extraordinarily old society with no room for youth, a sort of aged paralysis, many Jewish, Muslim, and Buddhist thinkers suggest that a radically extended lifespan could be enthusiastically embraced. In Judaism and Islam, a longer life can be seen as part of a divine plan to do more good and serve humanity. Meanwhile, in Buddhism, it just offers more time to achieve wisdom and compassion. Ultimately, as the biology of aging transitions from a natural inevitability to an engineering puzzle we might actually solve, it leaves every single one of us with a profound choice. We're looking at a future that could fundamentally alter human relationships, the environment, and our deeply held beliefs. So, I leave you with this question to ponder. If science could safely offer you another healthy century of life, would you take it?